But no, I'd say back in 2006, I was what you might call the stereotypical recent college grad millennial that all of the boomers complained about. The theory is if we can unlock the missing middle, that workforce attainable housing, people will vacate kind of that entry-level housing, move into that next-level housing, and then that entry-level housing becomes available. We always start with what we call market potential analysis. So what could this community be? Who might move to this community rather than looking at what their historical housing market has, how that's performed.
Okay, how many titles did you have?
You're listening to the NEI Pioneer Podcast. This show is all about telling the authentic stories of Northeast Indiana. In the studio with us today is your friend and mine, Ryan Twiss. Ryan was a part of our team here at NEI for 15 years before transitioning into the role of Chief Strategy Officer at Mission B.U.I.L.D. earlier this year. Mission B.U.I.L.D. aims to deliver cost-effective housing and workforce development opportunities by partnering with rural and middle American communities. In this episode, we chat about the history of NEI, the growth of the region, and how Mission B.U.I.L.D. is positively impacting economic growth, one housing development at a time. If you would like to learn more about Mission B.U.I.L.D. and how to get involved, be sure to check the links in the description. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Ryan Twiss.
Jonathan Sackett.
One of my closest and dearest friends, and this a lot of people may not know this, one of the main reasons for me coming here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true. You and I had a couple of side conversations during the process 3 years ago, but we had a couple of side conversations about that, and I thought it was wonderful.
I was just trying to call your bluff. Didn't think you'd really come.
I didn't either. You suckered me. Anyway, Ryan Twiss is here, sitting on the other side of the table, which is awesome because you used to be my partner sitting here, and at the end of the year, the Summation podcast. You're in that one too.
Yeah, that was fun.
Anyway, I'm really glad to have you here, and look what we brought for you.
All right.
Do you want to have one?
It is 9 a.m.
It is
I'm
somewhere.
Just kidding, it is not.
We're recording this at 6:30 in the morning, so there's probably a lot of issues here.
In our defense, this is only our fourth.
Well, this is so. Do you recall this beer? So
Absolutely.
We had your friend and I think you introduced me to Paris, didn't you?
It was either Dara or me. Yeah, Nick.
Okay, because Paris McFarthing, his brewery, did this for us for the Pioneer Podcast, and this went over like gangbusters. And
Do you recall what I texted you after the event?
It was one of your favorite beers.
I said that I don't typically like Pilsners as a style, just in general, and I did not expect to like it, but I got it anyways, and I was so impressed. It is one of the best Pilsners I have ever had.
Yeah, Paris is great, because he was a finalist our first year for this whole thing, and I like it that we could personalize the cans, and I thought the team did a really good job with that.
He's great.
Yeah, Paris is great. So you'll hear more about him later on, but let's get to you.
All right.
Ryan Twiss, who was... Okay, how many titles did you have? Because you came from the Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership when they were referred to as NERP.
I actually predate that even.
What were you guys? What was it called then?
Didn't have a name yet. So I think I ran the numbers the other day, and I ended with 13 or 14 titles here at NEI over the years.
Because you were an intern first, weren't you?
So I started originally back in 2006. My origin story here is I had decided right towards the end of my undergrad that I wanted to go to law school.
Yeah.
But it was like I made the final decision like a week before I was going to have to take register to take the LSAT, and I was just not prepared to do it. So I said, okay, I'll take a year off. I'll do some work, pad my resume, prepare for the LSAT, and then I'll go to law school the following year. So I did that and was working on it. And I was actually at the Fort Wayne Sport Club after one of my older sister's women's soccer games. And one of her one of her teammates, this woman named Katie Silliman, heard me say that I wanted to volunteer and do some grant writing as I was trying to get my resume, an application resume built up for law school.
Wait, had you ever done grant writing before?
No, but I was...
I don't even know if I would have known about that when I was in school.
I'd kind of just been around some nonprofit stuff before, so I just sort of knew it was a thing. But with law school, like the big thing is, writing and reading. It's reading comprehension and your ability to write is effectively what they look for. And so that was something I was just going to try and figure out how to prove out. I was this close to actually taking a part-time or a temporary gig at GM, but I turned it down to accept this unpaid internship at this new startup economic development organization that didn't even have a name yet. It was operating under its initial fundraising campaign name, which was NEI equals ROI.
Yeah, I saw wasn't that on a mug or something?
Yeah, I
'Cause I was digging
recently-
through the archives and I was like, what?
I recently saw a mug at a consignment shop here in Fort Wayne for sale for $1. It was from the original fundraising campaign that they gave them out with the fundraising.
Did you buy
asks.
it?
No, too rich for my blood. So I did that, and I worked for 2 weeks, I think, worked as an unpaid intern. And then they said, look, we have too much work to do. We want you to come in 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. We'll pay you. It was like, I was just getting paid hourly. And I did that for a year. Knew I was going to law school. They knew I was going to law school. I am 99% sure I had gotten fired if they didn't know I was already planning to leave. Just because I was kind of that typical.
It was that way when I was here with you too, though.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That's fair. I just had enough tenure at that point. But no, I'd say back in 2006, I was what you might call the stereotypical recent college grad millennial that all of the boomers complained about. Mm-hmm. That was me. So then I started working. I did a year here while they were doing their
And that was
initial
when
fundraising
John
campaign.
was the founder.
Yeah,
right?
John
So-
Sampson, he was the founding. He was actually, when I worked with John initially, when I first started, he was actually just on contract helping doing the initial fundraising. He wasn't even the interim.
Oh, you're
Or
kidding.
I think he was interim CEO at that point.
Wow.
But then I came back one summer during law school, had a girlfriend in town, and came back. And then after I got out of law school, it was 2010, so it was just coming out of the recession. The legal job market was terrible. I didn't even really want to practice law anyways. It was just sort of didn't know what else I was going to do with my life, going back to the typical entitled millennial college grad. I ended up, they needed some help. They were working on a big project that they'd been contracted to support around some workforce and talent programs. And so they asked me to come back and help out because I'd spent some time here and they kind of knew me. And I said, all right, I'll do it, but I'm going to be looking for real jobs in the meantime. And eventually I got a promotion, and it was to the point where I could scrape by on making my student loan payments and still do something I loved, and said, well, screw it. Instead of practicing law for a few years and then going to do something I'm more passionate about, the recession was sort of a crutch that I didn't even know I needed to just go straight into more of a mission-focused career.
So, okay. So you're here. You're kind of falling forward, right? I don't know what I'm doing, whatever. I come back from law school, graduate from law school, come back here. And now it's formed. And how many employees are part of it?
Oh, gosh. By that time, after I got out of law school, was back, there's probably about 10 maybe.
Okay. And did you feel like back in the early days of this, all I have to refer to is our timeline wall, at the main drag in the office here. And do you feel like you guys had formed, or did you feel like you were on a mission? Because it seems so loose at the beginning of this. You tell me.
Yeah. So when the organization was originally founded, it was really kind of the North Star was our region had been losing ground in per capita personal income for years. So it was for every penny that the average American earns, the average Northeast Indiana resident was earning 0.8 cents effectively. And so we're like, this, you can only have a low cost of living for so long for that to equal out. And when your cost of living is 90%, but you're only at 82% of the earning power or the per capita income, there's still a gap there, right? So it became really founded around how do we build the economy of Northeast Indiana, attract the jobs here to really grow it. In the early days, though, the regional partnership was really designed to be a marketing organization and had very little activity in anything that was related to community development, or as we called it at that time, kind of building the product that the partnership was trying to sell. Originally, they thought we can print some trifolds and put up a website and hire a couple BD guys to go out and walk some trade shows, and companies will flock to Northeast Indiana. And it just didn't happen because, like every other Midwestern community, we were competing with the same assets and the same challenges. So then it became really clear that we needed to invest in improving the assets that we were selling. But, there's a phrase that comes up a lot in nonprofit, rightfully so, mission creep. Yeah. This organization was created to do marketing and business attraction, but now we're getting into community development because we have to improve the asset. What's the point in selling a crappy product, basically?
Well, let me
is
ask
what
you,
the mentality was.
So when you say marketing, like how? like on behalf of the new people coming in?
So it was just promoting Northeast Indiana as a great place to do business.
Oh, okay, got it.
So
almost like the silent client,
Yeah, effectively. We throw up a website that has our tax rates and our utility rates and what sort of like links to the state's incentive pages and said, all right, now it's going to happen. We're going to be, the next big boom here. So we got really moved in some ways. The organization shifted some focus into that community development side. And that really launched with that program that I came back to help, which was called the Talent Initiative. It was a $20 million grant from the Lilly Endowment routed through the Community Foundation of Greater Fort Wayne. But the partnership got contracted to staff that, provide the staff support for it. And so it was really around building a STEM workforce to support the defense and aerospace industries and advanced manufacturing. It was an interesting time because shortly after that big grant happened and there was all this great work, sequestration happened. And so the defense employment just dropped significantly. So we were building this whole workforce development cluster around the defense industry that wasn't hiring anybody anymore and was in fact laying people off in droves. And so we it kind of shifted away from just that defense focus to be more around broader advanced manufacturing and talent and workforce. But it became this big push, and we started to lean further into that and created a program called Vision 2020. They pulled together like 1,200 people to Grand Wayne Center and did electronic voting and said, what are the key challenges keeping our region from growing?
Wow.
And they identified 5 pillars, and they
Who was the puppet master of that whole thing?
So this was under John's leadership, but Katie Silliman, that same person that overheard me say I want to do some grant writing, she was kind of the chief architect with Mark Becker, who was the former deputy mayor and then had come over to fill kind of the role that I left when I left here.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. So as you guys are going through that whole transitions, what was best of time, worst of time? And if you think back to those days, obviously you guys are formulating a team of people who don't know each other, formulating a team around a mission that you might not clearly understand, objective-wise, blah, blah, blah. What did that feel like? So
get this. When I came back from law school, we were in the building next door to where we're sitting right now. That building used to be an old utility kind of. It was
the Journal Gazette building.
No, the now the Hour Center that Arts United owns. Yeah, okay. That used to be an old NIPSCO. It was like the kind of regional headquarters. And so it was this crazy building with all of this open space, huge foyer and like atria, very little offices. We had moved in there. And that was the second office that the partnership occupied. The first was temporary space in a law firm. And when they moved in there, because the way the layout of the building was weird, is the main regional partnership employees, John and our business development VP and the marketing teams were upstairs. And then everybody focused on Vision 2020 and talent were downstairs. Wow. So we were literally separated by a flight of stairs. And it was very, like, when we would have all staff meetings, things would be, toxic is too strong probably, but it did not feel like
semi-toxic.
It wasn't a cohesive workplace. Multiple organizations operating under a single tax ID number, and that was it. That was the connection. And at the board meetings, they would never talk about Vision 2020. And with Vision 2020 launched the ROC, the Regional Opportunities Council. That was the initiation of that. Never talked about business attraction at those ROC meetings in early days because they were completely differentiated. Yeah, because people thought that, that we'd get a lot of talk, some kind of surly business leaders or even some of the older guard economic developers who'd talk about all that soft stuff, that fluffy stuff.
The fluffy shit. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Trust me.
And now it's like, the majority of what economic developers do is focused on workforce and talent and housing and early childhood. Well, and it's amazing how it's just shifted.
But see, that's the thing too, is that, it's funny. So a lot of the conversations that I have, I sit here and I go, you guys, I don't care how good of a salesperson you are. At the end of the day, that person's going to look on their phone or they're going to get online somehow, figure it out and look it up. Because they're going to look to what they view to be an impartial jury of Google, which is a little bit ridiculous, but they're going to look for that for the fact checks.
Sure.
Hey, we'd like to take a few moments to give a special shout out to one of our partners, Hop River Brewing. Owner Paris McFarling has been a staple on the Pioneer Starts Here platform since the beginning. He was a nominee at the first ever Pioneer event and he's been a guest on this very show. For this past spring's Pioneer event, our Pioneer Pilsner was a hit, and something tells me we're going to do it again. So if you have a special event coming up, celebrate with a custom beer from Hop River Brewing. You can have full customization too, from the label on the can to the flavor of the beer on the inside. You can get in touch with Paris for any of your beverage needs at hopriverbrewing.com. Thanks to Paris and Hop River Brewing for being a true pioneer in Northeast Indiana.
So you go through all that. I've heard different stories. I've heard a lot of stories about John, but you go through all that. He leaves, and now there's a hole because there was no preparation for who's the next to take over. How long were you guys without a CEO?
I think John stepped down, and then I believe, if I recall the timeline, I think his last day was March 31st or April 1st or something like that was the first day. And then
Just kidding.
Yeah, right. And then Stefan, it was October before Stefan was brought on.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we had.
What was that like hanging around the office?
It was interesting. We were on it rightfully so and expectedly so, like kind of a spending freeze. No new programs, but continue operating what the programs we were running. In the meantime, though, during that same period, Governor Holcomb's administration announced the READY program, the Regional Economic Acceleration Development Initiative, which was a $500 million program that regions were competing for. And so we had no CEO.
Well, how did we have who gave the wherewithal to say, look, we need to get a piece of that and have somebody head that up?
Yeah, so we were, READY was actually kind of a follow-on or a second phase of a program that was launched under the Pence administration called the Regional Cities Initiative.
Yeah.
They had set aside some funds, and 3 regions, Northeast Indiana was one of the 3 with Evansville and then the South Bend Elkhart region, to win anything. And it was binary. It was you win or lose, 42 million or nothing. And so almost every region in the state competed, only 3 won. So then when READY came out, it was it was competitive. Some regions were going to get more than others, but it was kind of a known thing that everybody was going to get something because it was 500 million. But we went in saying, okay, we had the momentum of regional cities in 2016. We've been on a growth trajectory. We've been doing really well since then, kind of outkicking our coverage in a lot of ways. We think we should be one of the Max Award winners, and we were.
How are you guys, like, what covered salary?
We actually increased investors. We had 2 council. Darrell landed 2 Council of CEOs members in that interim period when we didn't have a CEO. Yeah, because we were still doing the work.
Yeah.
We didn't go on a work freeze. We just didn't launch any new programs.
Okay.
Except for pursuing this $50 million state
maybe
grant.
it was ironically good that it happened during that period of time, because what if it would have happened during budget planning time? You know? I mean, we might not be sitting here.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, so we go through all that. Stefan comes
in.
in.
The board was very clear in the executive committee. They didn't want to, shake things up. They didn't bring in an interim to clean house or anything. They said, talked to the leadership team, sat down with us and said, let's keep the lights on, let's keep the staff in place. And so we just focused on culture and doing good work at what we were doing. And so it was, like I said, we brought in more investment. During that period, Stefan's like second week or third week or something, we were doing the presentation for the READY application that we'd been working on for like the last 6 months prior.
Oh, wow.
Or 3 or 4 months prior. So yeah. So he and I were spending a lot of late nights together, putting that together right after he first started. But a lot of that work was done without a CEO here.
It's interesting to go through that timeline to see, because a lot changed during that period of time. How many years were you here total?
Total? So yeah, I started in 2006.
No.
Did a year, did a summer, and then 2010.
Wow.
So yeah, 15 years almost in a contiguous stint, plus a couple more.
So talk about when you were going through all that, all the changes, you started working pretty closely with Heather Pressley-Cowen. Do you remember the first time you met Heather?
I do, actually, yeah. Well, I'm not sure if it was the first time I met Heather, but it was the first time I remember really interacting with her. We were at Hoppy Gnome. It was myself, Mike Galbraith, Ryan Chasey, who's my coworker now, and Heather. And we're talking about, unsurprisingly, housing. At the time, Michael Galbraith.
She knows more about housing than I will ever know about anything.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
And you're very knowledgeable, so that's no disparagement to you. But I've even heard her say, it occurs to me that I know a lot about a very narrow field of things.
Yeah.
So she knows more about housing than I think most people would ever know.
What was her
about
thing?
anything.
She was the youngest?
She was one of the youngest department heads in the city of Fort Wayne. I
think she was in
that.
her 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was the first housing lead
Czar.
for the city of Fort Wayne. Yeah.
So you start working with her closely as a partner from NEI, and you ended up going over there. How
I did. Yeah.
That was those. It seemed like those were that was a long conversation, though, right? I mean, that was months easily.
One could argue years.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think I didn't realize how many times she offered me a job until well after I was actually working with her.
Yeah.
And then I look back on all those conversations where she kind of hinted, well, if you just came and joined, worked with us. But yeah, so we for the Ready 2 application, we knew that housing is just such a critical barrier to community economic growth that it was one of the 5 key focus areas of our Ready strategy was workforce attainable housing, not affordable, big A affordable housing, but really workforce attainable. And so worked really closely with her and her team and Mike Galbraith, who I mentioned, who was working with us on putting together that application. And really just there was a lot of innovation and a lot of creativity in there that I just hadn't seen. And then as we were actually providing some of the grants to some of these projects that had housing components and just realizing that there's a very standard way that things were being done and there were standard ways that communities were being asked to invest in those things. And it seemed like there may be a better, more community-minded way to approach that.
Yeah.
And I don't call it hubris or risk tolerance or whatever, said, I think I can add to that. I sat Stefan down on his first week of work. I took him out to lunch on the Friday of his first week and said, I am interviewing for other jobs. I wanted to have one before you started so that this didn't blow back on you. I didn't want it to look like you couldn't keep me. So I was kind of hoping I'd never meet you before I got another job.
I tell Stefan that almost every day.
But I said, I'm going to, because I raise all the money in this organization, I know what it can afford, and I know that one of them you can't match, and so I'm going to see that one through. The other one I am going to withdraw from because I think I'd rather work for you than work there. So anyways, I said, I'm impressed. I like you. And we talked for a long time at that lunch downstairs and at Sasaki. And yeah, he convinced me to stay. And I just knew this is gonna be good. We're gonna learn a lot. I'm gonna learn a lot. We're gonna get a lot done. We're gonna do a lot. And I just had a good feeling about it.
Yeah, and we did. It's so funny because year over year since I've been here, we've set records year over year. This year, same thing again. Well,
once you cut that fat.
Did you know we called you that? Oh, that's weird.
You and my daughters.
You should just tell it.
All right. So I was driving my 5-year-old, she'll be 5 in November, to school today. And she said, Dad, some people have fat tummies, and you're one of those people. I would have been mad and insulted if I wasn't so impressed with the delivery. One thing she also said to me was, you're the silliest person I know. And I said, is that true? And she said, you're the second silliest person I know. And I said, who's the silliest person you know? She said, Jonathan.
What has 2 thumbs and is silly? I
haven't seen him in a really, 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 really long time. She wants to see you.
I want to see her too. So let's talk about can you separate, because Mission B.U.I.L.D is technically where you are now. Mm-hmm. And wonderful name. That is one of the coolest names for a corporation I've ever heard. Really, that is. Oh yeah.
Interview's over. Okay. So Heather Pressley-Cowen created this thing called the HOME method. It stands for Housing Optimization Through Market Empowerment. And she did a podcast sitting in this very seat talking about it. So I won't go deep into the details. Go back and watch it. It's great. Within that, it really started as her working with local units of government to try and help them figure out some of the lessons that she learned in running the housing department for the city of Fort Wayne, and how certain types of investment can actually unlock affordable housing in a way that you don't have to subsidize it with federal funds and things like that. So if we invest in this,
which is one of the biggest problems we're having right now. So
and it costs more in a lot of cases to build an affordable, it costs a lot to build capital A affordable housing, more than obviously than you could get for it.
Right.
So it's a big investment to do that. The theory is if we can unlock the missing middle, that workforce attainable housing, people will vacate kind of that entry-level housing, move into that next-level housing, and then that entry-level housing becomes available as entry-level housing. It's almost impossible to build a starter home in this construction market because of the cost. So I was really impressed with that sort of concept and theory. And under this, we have a nonprofit kind of partnership arm called the Housing Resource Hub. It's a locally based organization. Heather had partnered with them and sort of merged into that group. It's a great board, great organization, and they do a lot of work with local communities. They'll help kind of as a housing optimizer and being able to assemble sites and pursue grants and work with and kind of be a conduit to developers. But we just kept finding, the team kept finding that they'd get it to a certain step and the community would be ready, but maybe the development community didn't quite see it. Or we always start with what we call a market potential analysis. So what could this community be? Who might move to this community, rather than looking at what their historical housing market how that's performed? Because if you just look at comps and you say, look, we have never sold a single accessory dwelling unit in the history of this community, so why would we build any?
Yeah,
because you've never built one. How would you sell one?
Well, okay, but then let me ask this: so why nationally are we having so many problems with that? Is it mostly the entry level home, or is it the materials, or is it a perfect storm?
The perfect storm.
Okay.
It's, you have the financing cost, just cost of borrowing money is high, higher than it historically had been, and maybe we'll never go back to some of those lows that people got really comfortable with. You have cost of materials that were, the cost of a 2x4 didn't change that much from 1970 to 2008 or something like that. And then it skyrocketed, and it's gone down, but it'll never go all the way. It'll never get back to where it was. So what used to be, when I bought my house for $134,000 in 2015, it's now worth over $300,000. Like, that's stupid, and it was dumb luck. I didn't do anything smart. The first house in a neighborhood I wanted to move into came up, we bought it. Wow. That's how much it cost.
Heather had a unique way of looking at these things. And I think you talk about how does Mission B.U.I.L.D work in concert with the rest of this?
Sorry. I didn't make it that far. So the other piece, we have the nonprofit that can do some of those things. We also have a fintech platform called Club 720. The 720 referring to the credit score required to get a traditional mortgage. And so there's a lot of opportunities to find people that are looking to move into some of these developments, to connect people with down payment assistance programs, which the Northeast Indiana has a down payment assistance program through Hoosier Homes Plus that the Strategic Development Commission put funding into. So just all these great programs through that. But there were some cases, some developments in some communities where the builder community, the lender community, the realtor community, the developer community just couldn't see the potential. And so there were a couple places where we thought if we could just take it one step further and actually potentially step into either that co-developer role or even if need be that full developer role, we could get some of these housing projects done in these communities to help catalyze their economic growth.
So is it fair to say it's something beyond a spreadsheet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, a lot of development world is really just financing, putting together the financing for a project. Sometimes it's a matter of a developer puts in their own equity and then borrows the rest. Sometimes they get the land given to them. They do tax increment financing. They get a ready grant. They get something like that. Sometimes they get low-income housing tax credit if it's that type of project. So you can have these really complex capital stacks. And so what we do is try and help the communities put together those financing packages, but we'll take it as far as the vertical construction side phase if need be. Ideally, we don't have to get to that point, and the market will perform, and the people that have made careers out of building houses will go in and build those houses. So we just want to help the communities get to that point and then fill those homes, whether they're rental units in a mixed-use apartment complex or if it's a single-family detached. We want to bring new people into these communities and provide housing stock that doesn't exist in these communities for their existing residents.
Wow. You've been saying this a lot, I can tell.
Just made that one up.
So what for Mission B.U.I.L.D, what is the acronym?
I can't remember. It was pretty dumb. I'm just kidding. Mission B.U.I.L.D. It stands for.
That was a jab at me.
Yes, that was a jab at Jonathan. It stands for Bringing Unprecedented Innovation to Land Development.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That was perfect. Thank you.
Jonathan branded us.
Yes, I did.
So Mission B.U.I.L.D. is effectively our either development consulting, co-developer, developer arm that the nonprofit had been kind of filling that role.
Yeah.
But it's just a tough place for a nonprofit to be because there's risk associated with development. So we are not geographically bound, although everybody that works in our organization is from Northeast Indiana. We do have some external consultants that we work with really closely who are based in other areas. But yeah, we can do work anywhere. It's just that Northeast Indiana is kind of where our hearts are.
Barrett McNagny is a neighbor to us as well as a sponsor of this podcast. Barrett McNagny is a law firm that's located in downtown Fort Wayne, and they were founded in 1876. Now, I'll do some quick math for you. That's almost 150 years of experience. That's 149 years longer than this podcast has been around. Along with their experience, they also have a wide range of practice areas. They are best known for their trusted legal counsel where and when you need it. If you're interested in their services or want to learn more, be sure to check out the link in the description below. Now back to the episode. And
so what's next for Mission B.U.I.L.D?
So we're continuing to...
That you can talk about. I should probably preface that.
Yeah, well, I mean, this entire thing is Heather always says, we operate in a learning lab. We're continually refining the process, partnering with a lot of economic development organizations and local units of government. But one of the things through the nonprofit arm that we're doing is called a Planner on Demand program, it's pretty neat. Partnering with Ball State University to create a program that was, again, actually seed funded through the Strategic Development Commission to create a certification for nonprofits, local units of government, someone in a community that can help catalyze a housing system. So we're calling them either protege hubs or Club 720 hubs. In some cases, they could be a housing optimizer, which is the group that will assemble the land and seek the grants. We'll fill that role through our nonprofit if we need to for a community, but we'd love to see that grow organically within a community so that we don't have to operate in there anymore. Yeah. And we can hand it, kind of back to their own local leadership where it really should be. And that's the communities that are really doing well are the ones where their leadership has really strong backbone, I guess.
Is that a tough sell? I mean, meaning like if I'm a local government, I may or may not want to give up some land to one of these initiatives or something. Do you think when you say, look, we're going to come in here, do our best, do our digs and give it back, as you said, do you think that there's a willing suspension of disbelief? Do you think they buy that?
The only way I guess I would answer that question is housing is such a pinch and strain on a lot of these particularly rural communities that they are willing to give away more than I think they should or need to get some of these projects done. And that was part of the genesis of me making the leap, was being on the other side of the table as we were providing some of these incentives to these programs, starting to recognize that a lot of the requests we were getting either ended in a bunch of zeros or their hard gap was exactly the statutory cap on what they were allowed to get. So it's like, okay, you're developing the financing for this project based around how much incentive you can get. That's not really calculating what the actual gap on this project is. So part of it is trying to convince communities that they don't need to just give them everything.
Right. But it's got to be such a hard pivot because if they're not thinking that way and they don't have the staff or the resource.
And that's it.
Yeah, I figured.
It really comes down to capacity. And that's where the Planner on Demand piece comes in, and where the Strategic Development Commission, I think, was so forward thinking and that funding. And then Heather and Ryan Chasey on our team, who have been really designing it, very forward thinking. And how can we help these communities build some of that capacity, or at least maybe even, if nothing else, recognize some of the vocabulary so that they don't find themselves in a upside down position.
Wow. Okay, so you've been over there a little over 6 months then. So I think this is the last question before we start getting into the rapid wrap-up stuff. But have you been there long enough to find what's most rewarding about this new position for you? Or is the fact that it's a new position makes it rewarding? I don't know.
I think so. I kind of fumbled around Mission B.U.I.L.D versus our nonprofit versus Club 720, and we're transitioning to more of an enterprise model right now that on January 1 we'll really lean into. We're operating we have the home method and the ecosystem, and there are other partners that aren't affiliated with us technically that are like KEDCO, Kosciuszko Economic Development Corporation. Yeah. They're a great partner. They are hustling and doing all sorts of work in partnership with us. And so we would definitely call them like a protege hub or a Club 720, an extension of us, but not necessarily a coworker, so to speak. Well, what has been most rewarding for me is having lived through some of those lessons where I talked about being on two different floors of the same building within one organization, and really trying to break down some of the walls between those different organizations to say, this is really one mission, this is really one set of goals that we're pursuing, and we really are one team working that way. And that was just how I'm wired, so I just came in that way. It wasn't something I had set out to do, and I even gave Heather kind of a hard time that I can only have my performance be based on vibes for so long. But it was really encouraging and fulfilling to hear from not from Heather necessarily, but from my coworkers about how much better they feel about coming into the office, working with each other even. It's just kind of neat.
Because you're entertaining, probably. You don't bring a lot.
I'm the second silliest person Eve knows.
I'm the first. Mm-hmm. No, I think one of the things that always really struck me was Heather. She always had the brains and the heart. And I don't come across that. I don't come across that very often. I hadn't historically in advertising. But that being said, I think that's why I always looked at her. And you're one of my closest friends, and you're one of the smartest guys I know. So I just thought that this was going to be something. This is going to really be. I still feel that way. This is going to be something huge, because if I was to pick my all-star team, you two would be on it.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say.
No, for sure.
One of the challenges we certainly find ourselves in is, a lot of this stuff is kind of startup mode bootstrapped, right? So we're not, we don't have big investors, and we're not bringing a ton of equity into these deals, because otherwise we would just be serving the role of another private developer, and that role is already being served by the private developer community. That space is well occupied, and it just doesn't need assistance. So we try and stay in places where it's not being fully occupied. But that means you bootstrap a lot. You have to make do with low resources. Heather has busted my chops a little bit, having, as she puts it, gone from riches to rags, just from
sort of
from the opulence of the NEI podcast studio to our little ragtag group of optimists. But so part of it is coming in. We're not going to compete with a D.R. Horton, America's builder, who building thousands of homes all across the 50 states at any given moment. But that's also not the space we're trying to play in.
Right. Well, it's probably too crowded of a space anyway, and you guys wouldn't need to, I would assume, right?
While technically our parent organization is a for-profit, it is truly... Indiana doesn't have a ton of benefits for setting up as a certified benefit corporation, but it is really a mission-driven organization. The for-profit status really has more to do with just the flexibility of being a for-profit versus a nonprofit. We really are pouring everything back into the work and trying to get these housing developments done for communities and trying to fill them with people that need housing.
Awesome. And then, how would people go about, what if they want to invest in you guys? What if they want to contact you? What if they want you to expand and Kansas City wants you guys to come talk? How would they find you guys?
So if the best way to come in to the organization is through yourhousingresource.org. It is the Housing Resource Hub, our nonprofit's main website, and that there's a online intake portal for coming in through the Planner on Demand series. If you want to, kind of figure out what that's about and get training, if you're a local community, if you want to connect with us and say, hey, I'm a builder, a developer, and I know you're working in a lot of communities, and we've been really interested in the growth of Decatur and think there's something that could be happening there. Please, by all means. We'd love to connect. And one of the things that I told Heather I could do for her when I first started was fill in her coffee clutch meetings if need be.
Yeah.
But
some
they're
better
just
than others, I would assume.
well,
Yeah.
it's so neat though. What's been really encouraging is as we've gotten some of the word out, and thank you to you in a lot of ways, because even just the announcement of me leaving got some buzz around the
you
new
were
organization
a
and all
staple
that.
around here for so many years.
Well,
You were one of I could market you blindfolded, man.
Yeah. But in any event, it's been really encouraging people coming out of, I don't want to say out of the woodwork, but people that we would think wouldn't necessarily be calling us are calling us to say, hey, we've been hearing about all the good work you're doing in these communities, and we think you have something that we don't have, and maybe something we could add that you guys don't have yet, and see how those things could work together. And
perfect.
That's something that I had always prided myself on in my NEI role, is trying to figure out, all right, how can we figure out how everybody can win if we work together?
Yeah.
And being on the receiving end of some of those phone calls has been really cool.
Well, I for our audience, I can't say enough about you guys. I mean, Heather, I consider her a close friend. You're one of my best friends. Smart people, changing the game. I love that kind of stuff. Those are the case studies that we want to promote around here.
And such an awesome organizational name.
Yeah. It's the white space that's funny. But listen, I wish you guys the best of luck. You guys are, I can't say enough about you. And if nothing else, the one thing I would say about you is that I know you've got a big heart, and I know you want to help. So even if you guys can't help people, you would point them in the right direction. And I can say that with 100% confidence.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right, rapid wrap up.
Let's do it.
First one, I have to ask this one. It's not even on my list, but I have to ask. DeBrand's Chocolates or
Coney Island.
By far? Okay. I
mean,
remember you and I used to get boxes of them.
Don't get me wrong, DeBrand's chocolate, brag about it all over the country, anyone I talk to, but it's Coney Island.
Yeah, I get it. And then, okay, favorite podcast episode?
I've never listened to any of them.
Except you watched the year-end one. I know you watched that one.
Yeah, it was good. This is self-serving, or it sounds more, it shouldn't.
Hey, are you getting that out there? Yeah.
As self-serving as this sounds, I absolutely loved the Heavy Tech one you did with Mike and Davide.
Great guys.
You talk about innovation with heart and
Yeah.
at the center, those two guys.
Yeah.
And they've just been really awesome to work with. But I learned more listening to that podcast about the industry that I am a co-owner of a startup in.
I swear to God. And the thing is, I'm such an outsider to all that stuff. I could help him position or whatever, but
Yeah.
I was sitting there learning. And I'll tell you something, Terzo is an anomaly, man. That guy.
He's a walking, talking representative of the off-highway industry.
It's unbelievable.
I was at a trade show with him once, and it was like,
Was it the one in Chicago?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw a guy walk up, and he goes, "Hey, my boss wanted me to find out what is going on. What's
going on with you?
What
Who's
this
your
thing
boss?"
is. I thought it sounded really stupid, but then he told me you were involved in it.
He said that?
Yeah, so now I think I should learn more about it. It wasn't about heavy tech, it was a different topic, but I just remember thinking like, wow, what cachet in an industry where someone says, I thought this was a stupid thing, my boss made me look at it, I found out it was you, and now I want to know more.
Right now, as we speak, what can you say do you think is the best part of your job, your day-to-day now?
One of the things that I like most about my new job is one of the same things that I liked most about my old job. And it is mission-driven people that want to change the way things are done. And it's not
How ironic that was the same passion you had here.
Yeah. I mean, well,
It worked.
it's not ironic. I mean, it was what attracted me to it.
Yeah.
It was the thing I knew I loved,
Magnetic.
and I could do it. Yeah. One of the things that I really do love most about my new job is that I still get to spend a lot of time with the same people that I really enjoyed working with in my old job. And it's just that I get to do a lot of the same kind of work in that it's really about economic development and improving communities. It's just a little bit, instead of saying, I joke that I basically said all of economic development was too easy, so I decided to pick housing.
Oh, good. You took the easy path.
And I'm going to quote Jacob when we interviewed him for his job. And he said, honestly, if somebody put a gun up to my head and said cure cancer or affordable housing, I might take a crack at cancer.
Yeah.
But I think that is one of the most satisfying, one of the most fun things about it is like getting to work in the same kind of field with the same people, just doing something slightly different. So there's, the novelty, there's the newness, there's the interest, there's the deeper dive into a certain vertical. But I also get to still hang out with Stefan, and I get together every other week and just have a check-in. Jacob and I talk almost daily. You and I talk almost daily.
Yeah.
Like I still get to work. Nick, Dara, and I are
And plus,
time.
when you come in on Fridays once in a while and work in here, I mean, it's awesome.
Like I never speak with Dan Bish, but he and I never spoke anyways.
I saw the sign he handed you. It must be around here
can I see
somewhere. He told me, he goes, I got to up my game. I said, well, then use the digital screen out front. This is what he shows Ryan every time Ryan comes in our office.
Oh, sorry.
Well. Look who came crawling back.
It was waiting for me on the couch when I got here.
It's a recurring theme of things we do. Last, final question. What is one fun fact that people may not know about Ryan Twiss? The music was, I gave that one away on you.
I have 3 sisters, all of whom are married. I threw up at 2 of their weddings, and neither of them were alcohol related.
Clutch my pearls.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe you. I think you're a liar.
No, so true story. I locked my knees in the altar at my sister's wedding when I was 14.
Never do that.
And I passed out
You're supposed to roll your feet in your shoes.
while they were being wedded.
Marital bliss at its best. Ryan Twiss. Ryan, I can't thank you enough for coming in. Good friend, great organization, great people you work with, and you're very well missed here.
Thanks for having me.
I love you, man, and thank you again for joining us. And thank you, seriously, for all you've done for the community. I hope that shines through in the edit, because I know what a big heart you have, and I know what a big brain you have. And
My doctor calls it enlarged.
And you're and you're using them both for the power of good. So thank you.
I appreciate it, and as you can tell, I am uncomfortable with compliments.
I'm not. Right. Thanks again, buddy.
Kelly and Bryce, you did great.